my mom found out that he was like king of the gypsies of our area, whatever that meant.
Oh, boy. Welcome to the Big Dane Podcast. I'm your host, Denise Trimborn, and in this podcast, find the connection in the weird experiences that we all share. Listen to new episodes on Tuesdays wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, friends. In this week's episode, I'm chatting with returning guest, my mom, Denise Trimborn, from Norristown. That's new. Listen to her weird and interesting neighbor stories. Learn about her West Philly neighbor's pet pig. Welcome, Mom.
Hello, Dana.
Thanks for coming back on.
It's fun to be back.
Thanks. Yeah. If you haven't listened to her episode, this was before I kind of changed things up, and it was episode 83, Memorable Birthday Experiences. So go and check it out. Before we get into everything, just tell the listeners, since, there's some of you out there that don't know you, just tell them a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from.
Well, I was born in West Philly in the 50s, and I'm presently retired from the North Penn School District. I worked in special ed, and prior to that, I was in the healthcare field, mostly dealing with health information and quality improvement. And currently, I babysit my beautiful granddaughter, Annie, 2 days a week, and I'm involved in 2 book clubs. So I'm keeping myself busy in the retirement.
Busy. Social butterfly.
Yes.
Love it. So let's do those weird questions. So what is a weird superstition that you have?
Well, I'm a really big sports fan of Phillies teams. And I also would do this superstitious thing when Dana and Scott played sports. And it has to do with the evil eye. And it looks like you put your 2 fingers, your index finger and your pinky out, and all the other fingers are behind. And it's supposed to give them the evil eye. You're giving them the jinx.
Like it's closed down. So your middle finger and ring finger are closing into your palm, and you have your pinky and index finger. And thumb. What do you do with your thumb?
The thumb.
Does that close in?
No, that's out too.
You got 3 fingers out.
Yeah. And so whatever the opposing team is, you'll see me at home, like trying to jinx the opposing team, through the TV. But if I'm at a game, it's even worse. And my husband, Paul, hates when I do that.
What does he say?
Just don't do that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, it's just funny now,
So when someone has seen you, maybe you don't know them, and they either came over to the house for the first time, like maybe it's a new friend, or you're out to a game, and like, does anyone say, like, ask like what you're doing?
Yeah,
like,
the funniest thing, I do remember this. It was Melissa Rory. She noticed, and she was like, "What are you doing?" She was probably like 9 or 10 or something, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I explained to her I was trying to put the evil eye on the opposing, like, say, soccer team or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
So it's just something my mom used to do it, and it just reminds me of her. I know it doesn't work, but it's just funny. Yeah.
All fun and games. All right, cool. So let's dive into some of your stories. So what kind of went on in West Philly?
Well, I have to give you the setting of the neighborhood. So I didn't live in a typical neighborhood with all houses. I lived on really what was like residential and commercial. And a lot of the houses and the businesses were from turn of the century that were converted. So they were kind of really cool places. They all had tin ceilings and like tile floors, and it was really cool. But the block I lived on, our house was in between the drugstore and the fortune teller.
Okay.
And then next door to that was my best friend, Petey, and her family. And then the next door to that was like a TV repair place.
Okay.
You know, where people used to bring their TVs there. You know, it's different things, you know, because TVs were different back then.
Yeah. Had to go in
Yeah.
to a store.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you still go into
And
a
then
store.
next to that was the tailor, but at the other end there was a bar. There was all kinds of things going on at the bar.
Oh, boy.
and then there was a barber shop too.
Okay. So now we understand the type of neighborhood and
it was busy because there was 2 lanes of traffic both ways. Like it was like tractor trailers would come, buses.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was like
so this was
insane.
not like a 25 speed limit.
Oh, no. And 3 blocks away was, if people know West Philly, it was the stop on 63rd Street on the elevated, which goes like your 2 stops into 69th Street one way, and then the other way, that's how you get into town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've got it.
Yeah. So the one story that I could tell you about that was a little crazy was the neighbor that was the tailor. Like I would go in, and I remember they were short, and like they must have been really short because I was little, and they would only speak like in broken English. They were Italian, and the lady would always like pinch my cheeks, you know, and say, "Oh, cute," or something, you know. And then when she would open her mouth, I would like be like appalled because her teeth were all like jagged, and I didn't know why they were like that. And then my mom told me that it's because instead of using scissors when she was cutting the strings, she would use her teeth.
Oh.
And that's what caused
What? Wow. Now only,
I don't know if that was true, but
say something like that.
But it was like horrifying when she would smile.
Oh.
I was afraid of her.
Oh. So, like, do you remember? Like, was that the first time that you saw her teeth like that? Or
yeah. I was like, weird.
And you were picking up something for grandma, or
yeah.
Okay. So so next time you had to go in there, did you tell grandma you didn't want to go?
No,
what happened?
I wouldn't tell her that. I would just go in and like get out of there as soon as possible. Yeah.
Because how young were you then? Would you say?
It was only a couple doors up, and it was very common back then to go to the store, or you know, I was even taking the L with Petey, my friend, at 12.
Yeah. So you were
yeah.
So that young.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Yeah, I can see that as a kid being a little scary, especially if if she you haven't seen her open her mouth really, and then all of a sudden it's like, yikes,
she's gonna bite me or something.
God.
So, and then in the summer, back in the day, there was nothing to do, and there was no pool in our neighborhood or anything. So the big deal was, since 63rd Street was like super busy, you can never open the fire hydrant. Like today, they have sprinklers you can get, which is nice. But back then, somebody in the neighborhood, one of my neighbors, had a special wrench to open up the fire hydrant, but it was around the corner because there was no traffic back there. It was like a side street, and like there was no internet, but somehow we all knew that so-and-so was going to open up the fire hydrant at a certain time. And then you would run over there as soon as possible and go and you would get flushed down the street because the pressure was
Oh my gosh, that sounds frightening.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and that was my idea of swimming. I never learned to swim because you either sat in the pool or you were gushed down the street with the water. But see, you weren't allowed to do it. And then the police would come and it wouldn't last that long. Maybe in like 15 minutes, the police would be there and they would shut it off because it was wasting a lot of water when you think about it. And you think all around the city, people are doing that. And that's how they came up with the sprinkler system.
So where do you even find like who just has like a random like fire hydrant wrench laying around?
I don't know.
Like, this is down in the basement in the second drawer, you know. So would you see him do it, or
yeah. You knew who he was. Yeah.
And then you saw him like bust it open.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Did it look hard to do?
It was probably, you had to be pretty strong. He was always like, it was like an older, like teenage kid that.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't like an adult.
Oh, I was thinking an adult.
No. So. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the other quick thing that I remember growing up was Mary's bar. There was always something going on there. It was really Sam's bar. Mary was the wife.
Okay.
And there was always something going on. Like she would serve minors. Like everybody knew it, you know. And but the other thing is there was a two-way mirror.
Ew.
And the two-way mirror was because back in the day, like a lot of the places had two-way mirrors. The fruit store had a two-way mirror. The candy store had a two-way mirror. As because it's called running numbers. It was before like the lottery.
Yeah.
And you would play illegal numbers, like a daily number, but it would go to the mafia. That's who you were really paying.
What?
And then if you won, then you had to get your money.
If you won, you're dead. The mafia wins all the time.
But the reason for the two-way mirror is because if they were getting raided, then they would know ahead of time.
Oh.
So everything was like, the candy store really wasn't the candy store. They had the numbers going on.
What?
Oh, yeah, the fruit store.
What?
Yeah.
How many stores? Sounds like a
all
whole block.
It was all over the place.
So how did you discover this? Like, was it just common knowledge, or like, would grandma tell you?
No, mostly... No, I guess it was my dad. My dad,
really?
Yeah, because my dad would go and play the number. My mom would say, "Nick, go play the number. I feel lucky today." He'd like bet $1 on a certain number. Yeah,
Bet $1. Yeah.
And your odds were, pretty good. But it was all illegal. It had to do with horse racing, but I never figured that out. Yeah, but it was definitely illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever play like when you got older? Like,
no.
It was just kind of grandma would randomly do that.
Yeah. And one time, dare I say, my dad worked for my uncle, and the number writer would go in there, and the police thought that my dad was the collector. It's called the bookie. And when I was 8, the detectives had a warrant and came to our house. That's scary. Raided our house for the numbers. Yeah. Yeah. That was scary. It was between Christmas and New Year, so I was home. Yeah, it was scary. And they sifted the sugar and the coffee. They thought we stuck things. They checked the car. They patted down my dad. Then they wanted to pat my mom and I, and my father said, "No way.
Yeah.
Are you touching them?" Yeah. And I didn't know what that meant, but now I know what it means. Sure. And then they checked the garbage. I mean, they checked everything. But my dad was mad because he knew the detectives. And he goes, I'm not. He goes, well, we have a warrant. You're going to have to comply.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And scary for being a kid.
Yeah, it was kind of scary. Because there was like 3 detectives, and they're in all the closets and the drawers and the, yeah.
Did you know like anyone else that happened to?
No, usually the other neighbors, the police were there was because they were getting raided for drugs.
Oh, jeez. Oh, wow. Different story then.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break. For a limited time only, you'll have free access to my coffee page. No, not actual coffee. This is a place for all exclusive content that won't be on my Instagram or Facebook accounts. Check out sneak peeks, behind the scenes, extra audio clips, and much more. Just have a tap on my link tree, look out for that coffee cup icon, and boom, you'll be on your way. And then what other stories?
Well, the funniest story that I can remember, it's not really funny. It's sad, but it's like crazy in a way.
All right, let's hear it.
Right next door, there was a couple that moved in, and they had older kids, like maybe like a teenager girl and two older sons that were like able to drive. I think maybe they were like out of school, but come to realize nobody really went to school, and the reason they got away with it is they were considered gypsies. And, because they were from another country, somehow they eluded the education system. And the mom, it was a storefront, so she put all these like saint statues in the window and put out a sign that she was a fortune teller. And people would go in there and have their fortune, like, reader and advisor.
Like in their house?
Yeah, in their house.
Oh, wow.
But it was like a storefront, because remember, all these businesses had storefronts.
Yeah.
So then we come to find out that there would be all these people coming over their house all the time. And my mom found out that he was like king of the gypsies of our area, whatever that meant.
Oh, boy.
And they had a pet pig in the yard.
A pet pig?
Yeah. Now, the yards, you're thinking, well, you're in the city. What's it like? Well, these yards, because it was turn of the century, they were very big, and most of them had grass and plants and everything. And some of them even went to like, I'd say half a city block. They were big. It wasn't like there was like a driveway like sometimes you see like in like Northeast Philly. It wasn't that. They were big yards. Well, their house didn't have any grass because the previous owner was he was a rug cleaner, and back then they would take rugs and then they would shampoo them out. And it was like, it was concrete out there. Okay. So it wasn't like they were washing the rugs in the grass or something.
Yeah.
So this whole yard was, the poor pig, had nowhere to go. So one Sunday,
oh no,
all these people start coming to the house. And Grandma goes, I wonder what they're doing.
A pig roast.
Yes.
No.
Yes. What happened was they had, they made their own grill out of like cinder blocks. They were building this thing.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't see when they slaughtered the piggy, but they put them on there. And this was like the crazy part. First, the men ate. All right. So all the men ate first, and then the women ate. And there were kids. And if there was nothing left over for the kids, too bad for the kids.
Really?
Yeah. It was
now
awful.
How many, well, I mean, from what you could see,
yeah,
like how many kids do you think were even there?
Maybe like 10.
Oh, so a good amount.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And then Grandma realized that this was after she would tell my dad, don't talk to them if you have money in your pocket. Who knows if it was true? She said, they're going to steal your money. But she wasn't too far-fetched about them stealing, because remember I mentioned the two older sons? They had all these cars. Like back then, most people had one car.
Oh, yeah.
They had like 5 cars, and they were big back then, the big boat, with the big trunks. Well, they would be out all day, and then suddenly when they would come home, they had all this stuff, like clothes and shoes, and Grandma goes, they were out stealing all day.
Yeah.
So,
Probably.
I mean, that's probably what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, so, yeah, it was, they were strange. They were definitely strange neighbors.
So was this like across the street or like?
No, they were next door.
It was next. It was literally next door.
Yeah, literally.
Oh my god!
Between my house and Aunt Petey's house.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're right up against the action.
Yeah. So.
Oh, the poor pig. I'm surprised you didn't hear the pig then.
Maybe I blocked that part out. I don't know.
Block out trauma.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but their whole heart, like how their family dynamic was very
So
strange.
as you got older, like, what happened to the family next door? Like, did they stay there a while?
I I think they moved out before we moved out because we didn't own the house. We were renters.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they weren't there the whole time because you're going to laugh. Instead of moving far, we actually moved across the street.
Yeah.
And I don't remember them being there after that.
Okay, so they weren't there that
No,
long.
they weren't there that long.
So who knows? Did you ever, like, randomly bump into them?
No.
Never.
No.
Huh.
Yeah, it was like they were there and then they weren't there.
Ew, then they vanished.
So
Yeah, well, it's definitely a different kind of neighbor.
yeah, I mean, and the fact, like growing up around there, all other kind of things would happen. But when I moved to the suburbs, when I moved to not even North Wales, but when I was single and I moved to my apartment, it was like, oh man, it's quiet. It's quiet around here. There's nothing good to look at or to see what's going on. You know, it was like so much activity. You know, the police were always there. There was always a fire. There was always an accident. There was always something going on. You know, you'd be eating dinner and then there would be a car crash out front because there was so much traffic.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
it was
true.
Busy.
A busy intersection.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay. Wow, those are some interesting stories that you got. All right. Well, thank you for coming back on and sharing these stories. They're definitely a little out there than some of the other guests, that have come on and shared their neighbor stories. But that's the whole purpose, right? Let's share the weird stuff that goes on. So if people want to get in touch with you and maybe share a West Philly story, how would they go about doing so?
I'm on Instagram, and it's just Denise Trimborn.
Okay.
All lowercase.
Okay. Cool. Well, I hope everyone found connection with my mom's story. And we'll catch everyone next week. All right. See ya. All right, my friends. Thanks for listening. And be sure to listen to new episodes on your preferred platform. Stay up to date with my podcast by going to my Instagram or Facebook accounts at The Big Dane Podcast. Interested in being a guest? Just go to my Linktree, tap on Be a Guest, and fill out the form. All right. Catch you next week.